Welcome to this video and thank you for joining us. I like to say some cars are born classics and others are made classics. My name is Gaston Rossato.
I'm Prince Rossato and this is a Ford GT.
Let's discover in this video some of the features and heritage of this car.
Let's go for a drive. All right, let's get rolling.
Let's go, safety first.
Let's do it.
To drive this car. And Renzo, you know that I'm a huge fan of cars that exist for a reason. Because some cars are designed because, oh, we want to make a really cool car and they just make it. Some cars have a reason behind it, and this one has a huge reason. We have to thank, first of all, that this car today exists because of Ferrari. Henry Ford II wanted to buy Ferrari out. And after months and months of negotiating, and pretty much having that already locked in, Enzo Ferrari at the last minute pulls out of the deal, pissing Ford off so badly that he said, we're gonna make a car that absolutely just spanks Ferrari Le Mans. And they developed the Ford.
And we're talking this
GT40.
back in the 60s.
This is in the 60s. Ultimately, what they accomplished is victory at Le Mans, 66, 67, 68, 69, 4 years in a row, something absolutely unheard of. An American company, all right, an American company that comes out of nowhere, you know, beating all the traditional race car companies on their own turf.
At Le Mans.
At Le Mans was absolutely something incredible. So that's why the Ford GT40 exists. Many, many years later, this car is made to commemorate the 100 years of the Ford anniversary and to pay a tribute to the original GT40. But this is not called the GT40, it's the GT.
So it's just the Ford GT. And many years later, we're talking 2005 and 2006 were the years that this Ford GT was produced. Obviously up until now where they came out with the new Ford GT. So let's talk a little bit about the numbers on this car. The Ford GT is a 5.4 liter supercharged V8 producing 550 horsepower.
You can feel it, I'll tell you that right now.
Which is incredible. Big numbers for a car, and it weighs about 3,350 pounds, give or take.
It's a big car. It's not a small car, actually.
It's a really wide car. Well, at least it gives me the feeling that it's a very, very wide car.
We sit low and it's wide, but it also feels like it has a long wheelbase compared to other cars.
And let me tell you, this AC kicks. They're actually a little cold.
What I like about this car is the fact that it is an exotic car.
Oh, 100%.
It's to me, one of the most beautiful cars that we'll find, at least in this era. It's an analog car. There's no traction control. It's a stick shift.
Right.
It's like an old school car with a modern day flair. And they've done just an awesome job because it's so contemporary. You can see it throughout here in the center console, the shifter, the dash. It's very contemporary, but at the same time, it's so retro. So that they pulled it off, like this balance between retro and
well, they tied it in really well with the original Ford GT40, with the looks of it. Like you said, it's that retro look, but it brings that, you know, new styling to it as well. There's little things that surprise you about it. One of them is the key, you know. If I found that key on the floor, I would be, oh, somebody lost their key to their Ford Explorer or their Ford Focus or something.
That's what it looks like.
And like the buttons in here, when it comes to the window and locking the doors, it's funny because it's,
yeah, it says Ford.
Yeah, those, you know, it's just a regular Ford.
But the engineering behind it is pretty incredible. And
no, that's for sure.
And what I like about this car also is that you're like, okay, do I own a Ferrari? Do I own a Ford GT? The maintenance is always the biggest deal on these higher end cars. Yeah. And this is a cheap car to maintain. I just took this car to the Ford dealer, which everyone knows is the most expensive place to get some work done. Annual service for $1,600. Now that may sound like a lot of money, and it sure is, but it's not $5,000 like it would cost you in a Ferrari.
Ferrari, right.
Because, I mean, guys, it's Ford parts.
Yeah. And you gotta love that. I mean, I think the biggest thing I love about this car is this stick you have right here, using to switch the gears. That manual transmission, it's...
Yeah, the 3 pedals
is, you know, you can't
already
beat
rare.
That. Yeah.
And it's so cool. You look back and you see the pulley spinning right behind your
We gotta
ears
get a shot
here.
of that, because that's actually really, really cool.
Now, there's a car that does demand a lot of attention. You don't see a lot of these driving on a daily basis. You have more odds of finding a Ferrari driving than one of these. And they weren't extremely rare as far as production numbers is concerned.
There are about 4,000 units that were produced for this
4,000,
yeah.
right? And that's between both years.
Between both years, correct.
It's funny because I was talking to one collector. He's like, "Well, I'm looking for one of these, but it has to be a 2005." I'm like, "Why does it have to be a 2005?" Well, it's the first year they came out. Well, the same is true for 2006. It's the last year it came out.
That's true.
I don't think it plays a big difference from the collectability standpoint. 2005 and 6, it's the same car.
And let's go back to 2005 and 2006. MSRP on this car was at about $150,000. Yeah, obviously depending on the options, which is obviously not cheap. But when you compare it to one of its direct competitors at the time, the Ferrari F430, that was starting off at 170 on the lower end. Obviously, depending whether it was Spider, if F1 transmission and all that would add on more to that price. It's incredible that you can get into a 4GT. The looks I've already talked about is one of the most beautiful cars there's out there. The price is lower than the Ferrari, and the maintenance is cheaper than the Ferrari. You know,
and the car has appraised and its value has appreciated much higher than the 430.
Right. So the 430 today is worth less than what it was brand new. In turn, this car is actually worth more than what it was.
Essentially double.
Which
in some cases, depending on the actual car, the mileage condition.
And I think it's only going to keep climbing.
It's lunchtime. All right, Renzo, so this car, cars put you in certain moods, and this one is America, or America, as they call it. So this is a 2006,
right.
And these cars out of the box didn't have a lot of options. You only had 4 options, guys. It was either the white stripe, the colored calipers, the style of wheel, and the Macintosh radio came with a subwoofer and all that. This car has them all. It's a sub 4,000 mile car, original paint, original cosmetics, never modified, so it's collector grade. It's everything a collector is looking for.
So it's on the higher end of...
It's on the higher end because of the mileage and condition and history. The only drawback, if it had one, is the color, because red was the most produced color.
There would be one above this one, which would be the Heritage.
Right, so you had the Heritage Edition. It had a livery with the Golf livery that, what was it a tribute to?
To the 24-hour Le Mans 1969 race.
Right.
So it was the same color as that car, which was a lighter blue with an orange.
And this one here, brand new, was $166,000. And like we had mentioned, this has practically doubled in value since then in the last 12 years. Now it's incredible. This car, 12 years later, is still so relevant, and I think it's aging beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
The car is absolutely gorgeous. It's still powerful. It still has the looks. It doesn't seem like a 12-year-old car.
And 12 years later, they came out with it again, the new Ford GT 2018. And it's a little bit different.
But I feel like that's a whole nother level.
And it's a different car. It's a different car. The new one is a 3.5 liter V6 EcoBoost.
Right. Technology, right?
Right.
A smaller engine, pumping a lot of torque,
no
horsepower.
more manual. It's now a 7-speed dual clutch transmission.
It's a very technological car, very low production car. This is a perfect combination between old school and the new school. It's the Ford GT. It's important to mention because I don't think we did that. This car actually stands 43 inches tall, so they couldn't call it the Ford GT 40 because it wasn't 40 inches tall.
So it's a Ford GT 43.
Essentially, unofficially. Oh man, I'm stuffed. I think now we gotta chill back and go for another pleasure ride. Huh?
I'd drive this time.
I'd say I recline my seat and go for a nap, but that's not gonna work.
Let's go. We're back. Talk about American muscle.
Absolutely. The car has tons of power, tons of looks. engineering, history, heritage. As far as I'm concerned, this is what made America great again.
Yeah.
It took the United States to another level as far as racing and history is concerned. It goes down in the book. It's fantastic. We're off to a very important meeting, which you will not know about unless you're following me at Gaston Rossato.
You can follow me at Rossato. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you here next Tuesday.
Thank you guys.
Peace out.
Later. Bring it back, just like that. Just like that. Wait! Stop!